Ugh. This is going to be a hike. This is going to be a long hike. We're going to cross a state border. No shots needed. No quarantine needed yet. Well, we're on our way to another state. Leaving Washington, D.C. and heading over to Northern Virginia. It rained yesterday really hard. Let me take this mask off. Ugh. So yesterday we had the remnants of the Hurricane Zeta, and they blew through Washington, D.C. And today it's just kind of gray, meh, yeah. I'm actually be in Loudoun this weekend, which is very near Leesburg. Actually, I'll be very near Leesburg this weekend. A soccer game Saturday afternoon. But right now, no. Oh, check this out. So, like, the leaves fell to the ground and left, like, wet little marks and stuff. Far out. Hey, thank you, Victoria. You are on the grounds of the National Cathedral, and we're going to walk down Wisconsin Avenue. We're going to pass the Russian Embassy, the Ruskies, then make our way into Georgetown before crossing the bridge into Virginia. Now, the reason for our trip to Virginia is pretty pathetic, but truth be told, we're going to Target. And the reason we're going to Target is I need a new Alexa. So why don't I just order an Alexa off Amazon? Because Target's having a sale on Alexas, and I don't need a fancy one. I just need an older one to control some light switches. And they have it in stock. I checked online. And now, well, I'm going to walk to another state to get a $18 Alexa. Yeah, it does actually feel like so. It's about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. What's that? 13, 14 Celsius. Alexa, play some Beatles. I've done that a few times. Let's have more fun. Alexa, order me a pizza. We've done that before. I don't have an Alexa, that's why I'm going to buy one. Well, I have one, but it's in my, it's set up in my house, out in the country, at my country house. And we need a city Alexa. So we have a country Alexa. And now we're going to get a city Alexa. I know, really pathetic. So if you look at my Twitter feed, Penguin6, you can see some of the anti-riot preparations that are going on in the DC area. In my own neighborhood, they're boarding up the drugstore. Weather's actually quite cool today. I'm rocking the U.S. Army issue liner in it. Why aren't I in law? Does the world have too many lawyers, right? Because if I was practicing law, I'd A, probably sue you guys for no reason, or B, kill myself. So, country Alexa and city Alexa are not friends. Bonjour Paris, bonsoir, I guess it's afternoon, right? Ça va? And, I had to watch, again, Emily in Paris. My wife is addicted. Even though she's binged the entire thing, she made me watch one of the episodes again last night. She's like, oh, I love his clothes. I actually told people in Paris kind of like turn their nose up at all. Someone said, I hate this show, but I watched every episode in one day. Leesburg is about an hour's drive from here. It is pretty cool. It's pretty cold. So yesterday we actually binged another show. We watched Barbarian, which is a Netflix German show about this battle between the Germanic tribes and the Romans in like 18 AD. So that was our excitement yesterday, was watching lots of German people beat up lots of Roman people. Hey, Spike. Both France and England are having some difficult times right now. I'm actually supposed to be in Europe in 2 weeks. I actually have a special dispensation pass to get me into a country, and but I'm not going to execute this. I'm not going to go. I'm going to stay here. But because Americans are generally not allowed to go into the EU, but I have this special dispensation to go to this one country. But special dispensations are what the used to be sold by the Vatican, that people could get out of doing something holy because they were given a special dispensation. Now, I say it like it's an edict from God, because if you've ever listened to the comedian George Carlin, who went to Catholic school, he used to always mockingly make fun of special dispensation. So a special dispensation is a way around your regular requirements of being holy. Now, I think that's actually the use, or I should say, the abuse of special dispensations is what led to Martin Luther and the Reform movement splitting off from the church. But I think it's such a cool word, I try to use it in my daily vernacular. So if your wife comes to you tonight and says, I want you to do the dishes, say, I have a special dispensation from the God of dishwashers not to do the dishwashers. Anyway, so in my continuing effort to Americanize my children, today we had a special treat, hamburger helper. So today I made hamburger helper for the kids and said, welcome to America. They took a couple bites and said, Dad, can we go back to Hong Kong? I was like, I miss Hong Kong too. This is an iPhone 12 Pro streaming to you at 5G. So now the 5G signal is enhanced by 2 special features of this area. One is on the left. That brick building right there is an FBI facility charged with espionage and spying maintenance over this building, which is the Russian embassy. So my signal is not only being listened to by the FBI right now, but also enhanced by the KGB, FSB, and that's why you're getting really good image quality. I do miss the fish and chips in Hong Kong, don't you? Is it worth getting it? You've got the X. Hello, Ukraine. I have kids. Yeah, actually, you know what? It is an upgrade from the X, and the biggest upgrade is nighttime photography. Do you take low light photos? The iPhones up until the 10 were pretty, including the 10, are pretty crappy at nighttime photography. But the 11 and the 12 take some really good nighttime photos. If you go to my Instagram, Penguin6, I was actually out at a fire station the other night waiting for Thai food, and I took a demonstration photo of the iPhone 12's nighttime capability. That's my Instagram, Penguin6, where I post random stuff like fire trucks, because let's face it, fire trucks are cool. I even did a special video, which is on my Twitter feed, Penguin6, of the fire trucks rolling out of the station while I waited for Thai food. Oh, here we go. Hey, how's it going? So over here, this is a COVID testing facility. This is a drive-through COVID lab, and this is actually a private one. It's not run by the government, but you can make an appointment in the morning or whenever on your phone, and you can just drive up, and they'll give you a COVID test. And I think the results come in a couple days. So let's go. Drive through up your nose. Yeah, if you guys go to my YouTube channel, Penguin 6, you can see had my kids got their first COVID test last week. It went up their nose. They didn't really like it, but it didn't really go up that far. Do they accept walk-ins? That one does not, but you just have to make an appointment in the morning. So, I mean, it's like basically a walk-in, yeah? I am back in the States. It does kind of feel weird. Yes, I have already voted. Ooh, it's cold. I almost just stepped in front of this car. Garbage trucks. What is it with garbage trucks on my hike? No, if COVID, I should have stayed in Hong Kong. No, there is no Halloween vibe here. In fact, I don't think my kids aren't going out, but I'm going to go score some more candy corn because candy corn's on sale. And candy corn is a gift from the gods. Am I never going back? Oh, God, no. I'll be back in Hong Kong this summer. The situation is strange. We moved here for, quote, 2 years. We're now going into our 3rd year. We cannot move back. Well, I guess we could, but right now we've been told not to fly. So, and our kids are in school, and our kids like the school, so this is kind of like, what do you do, you know? If the school was not an issue, we'd be back in Hong Kong. It has been 2 years. Isn't that insane? It has been insane for me, at least. I get depressed when I think about it. Oh, candy corn. Isn't candy corn just like the most evil thing? In fact, it was funny. I told my wife when we were first dating, I told her, oh yeah, I really like candy corn. It's really this. She's like, what's candy corn? I'm like, oh, it's this like disgusting candy made of sugar. Yeah. And she's like, okay. And then like 6 months later, it's Easter. She's talking to my mom. My mom's like, well, did you buy Andrew any Easter candy? And she's like, oh, that'll be cute. So she goes out and she buys me candy corn for Easter, which of course is mixing up the holidays. But I didn't care. I was like, Easter Bunny! Way to go, Easter Bunny! You don't have in the UK, Spike, that's why you guys don't have cavities. It's just like basically a bunch of sugar processed into the shape of a corn kernel, colored with artificial coloring to make it look like, I don't know, a corn kernel, and tasting like it melts in your mouth. If you eat enough of it, your saliva becomes acidic and can actually, like, you can spit and make a hole in a car. I'm joking about the last bit. It just feels acidic. Oh, there's some Halloween decorations. Oh. Don't know what I'm going to get for lunch. I might get a Jimmy John's. Ooh. There's actually a really good Vietnamese noodle place where I'm going, but I don't think you can eat indoors yet. Yeah, it's really sweet. There's a few, like, if you're ever in London, there's a few grocery stores like Partridge's and a couple others, mostly around St. James Wood area, Abbey Road kind of, because that's where a lot of the Americans live. And the grocery stores there will stock like American candy and cookies and stuff like that, or as you say, biscuits. I don't know, man. I'm sorry. An Oreo is a cookie. Yeah, I've never heard anyone say an Oreo is a biscuit, though I guess technically that's what they say. No, the fish and chip here suck. Yeah, it'd be a long walk with a bowl of noodles. In case you're wondering, these houses across the street, they go for about $800,000 to $1.2 million. That's what one of these townhouses would cost. Because this is not really a really posh neighborhood, it's just middle class. The median price in this zip code is about 1.2 million. Last I checked. We rent. No, it's not. But it's funny you mentioned that, because while our apartment is probably, we have an apartment here. Our apartment is half the price that it was in Hong Kong. But our school fees are double what they were in Hong Kong. So between the increased price for school fees and the decrease in rent, I'm basically at a wash compared to Hong Kong. The public schools are not open yet, but they closed for the first trimester, which ends in a couple days, actually. So there's some sort of movement. They will likely reopen in a hybrid system in a couple weeks. Now, the private schools where my sons go, that is partially reopened. The class is divided into two cohorts, and one cohort goes to school for a week and the other cohort is online, and then they switch it up again. Leaf blowers, much more fun than raking. But yeah, you could make some money here doing that. So this week is weird though, because Friday today is a professional teacher day. The teachers are not teaching today. So my kids are actually at home, driving my wife crazy. Yeah. The problem is that a lot of the school buildings are rather old, with poor ventilation and not a lot of space. So if you put every single kid in there, well, you'd have 20 kids in a confined space, all breathing the same air. So they want to break it into two, so 10 kids at max. Like, for example, our school actually tested every kid, and then they run a lot of staggered dismissals. So like the third grade kids, they shift between periods on the 5 minute after the hour, and then when they're done, then the fourth grade kids will shift, and then the fifth grade kids will shift, etc. They all get out like 10 minutes apart, so there's no big mass like gathering at the end of school day. This is a traffic camera, speed camera. Should fight the power. Knock it over. So DC has a mask law that if you're in public, like me right now, you need to wear a mask unless you're, quote, strenuously exercising. So if you're running or hiking or biking or some other form of strenuous activity that is done outdoors, then you don't have to wear a mask. But you're supposed to also try to distance yourself from other people. I occasionally drop the mask down because, well, it's wet. So we're about 4 or 5 blocks away from the campus of Georgetown University. We're going to cut through the campus of Georgetown University, and then we're going to go down the steps from the movie The Exorcist, make our way over to the Key Bridge, cross over the Key Bridge, and into Virginia. I don't know if you saw that viral video. People said, put something scary in your yard. So a guy wrote 2020 and put it on a sign in his yard. He said, that's the scariest thing I can think of. Hey, what's up? You are in a neighborhood known as Glover Park, and actually technically known as Burleigh, which is a former student area just north of the campus of Georgetown University. But as many of the students drove the locals so insane, the university bought a lot more space, built a lot more dorms, and moved a lot of the students back onto the campus to improve town-gown relations, as they're called. The university has to be a good neighbor, because occasionally the university wants to build new things, like a new hospital or a new building, and they need permission from the local neighborhood community. And if there's a bunch of college kids playing with blow-up sex toys in the middle of the school day, well, then, things are difficult to get past the zoning board. Oh, look at that. Rake, no rake. Rake, no rake. Town gown is a term to describe the relationships of a local community with the university that resides inside that area. So in every college town, every college place, there is the issue of town and gown. Townies are the locals who live there in that city, and the gowns, meaning the academic robes, are the university students and administration. So if you've ever lived in a college town or done anything with academics, the expression town gown is sort of a verbal shorthand for how universities relate with the community. The exorcist steps are on the other side of the campus. It'll be about 10 minutes, I think, before we get to those. But we're going to go down those steps. And I'll show you the house where the movie was filmed, too. Hey, puppy. Hey, puppy. Oh. Do. Now, in every town, and every college town, they often have different nicknames for the townies. One of the more famous ones is from Bloomington, Indiana. If you've ever seen the movie Exorcist, is where we're going to go see where The Exorcist was filmed. If you've ever seen the movie Breaking Away, which is a brilliant movie. It was filmed in Bloomington, Indiana, at the University of Indiana. Now, the area around Bloomington, Indiana is filled with amazing limestone and other materials which they use to build the buildings on the campus. Now, the locals who work there used to be stone cutters. And so they would call the nickname at the IU for the locals is the cutters. Yeah, they're a bunch of cutters. Yeah. So in the movie Breaking Away, a team of cutters joins a bicycle race against the university teams. And it's a great movie. Isn't that, I think it's not Dennis Quaid. Is Dennis Quaid's first film? I think it's actually Dennis Quaid's first film. Breaking Away. It won the Oscar for Best Picture in 1976 or so. So yeah, guys, if you haven't seen Breaking Away, it's a great film. I actually related to it a lot. I grew up in the Midwest in a college town, and I used to really like to ride my bicycle. So Breaking Away had a lot of relevance to me. So up ahead is Georgetown University's med school and hospital. This is all being renovated right now. They're building some new buildings out here. But GU is one of the two university hospitals, the other being George Washington Hospital. I am actually a little cold. I do, however, I've got a big Army field jacket, and my favorite Japanese long underwear from Uniqlo, which is one of the best things I discovered while living in Asia, is that the Japanese make super thin and super warm long underwear. So in our town they call them the townies. I sometimes call them the grits, or farm boys, because our town was a big farm town. Funny enough, though, most of the farm boys are probably wealthier than most of the college grads, because they hold thousands, if not tens of thousands of acres of farmland. An acre of farmland goes for about $10,000 US. And these guys are holding farms that are 1,500, 2,000 acres. We do live in a bubble. We're on Georgetown University campus now. So this is kind of like a bubble inside a bubble. Double bubble. And we're going to cut across the campus and then go down the steps. The Exorcist was based on a novel written by Peter Blady, who discovered that the priest at Georgetown had actually performed an exorcism on a local boy in the 1950s or 60s. And so he wrote his novel, The Exorcist, based on his research. That was turned into a film, which scared the living bejesus out of most Americans in the 1970s. It was, by today's standards, it's not really that scary. It really isn't. I think America is far more secular, and our expectations of visual effects have improved quite a bit. The Exorcist was based on a true story. Whether or not the kid actually had the possession or anything is a debatable fact, but yes, there was an exorcism performed on the campus or off the campus by some of the folks here. Hey, how's it going? It's okay. And that is what he wrote the book about. You can Google and you can find out more information about the underlying exorcism. The Exorcist was actually banned in the UK for like 30 years. I think it couldn't be shown at theaters unless it had like a special adult type thing. It had like this. It's a fun movie. It's a good movie to watch with the lights out, you know. And there are some good. I mean, you think, you know, it's 1970s. You're like, yeah, these are actually pretty good effects for 1974 or whatever. So now we're going to go right into the campus here at Georgetown University. Georgetown is a Jesuit school, a Catholic school. Though, coming from Notre Dame, which is a hardcore Catholic school, we kind of regard Georgetown as Catholic light, or diet Catholic. Georgetown University, I think, has about 10,000 students. However, I think a large number of those are graduate students. There are 1,500, 1,600 in the law school, several hundred in the med school, many in the Georgetown School of Foreign Service and in the other graduate programs. There were priests outside the cinema. It's amazing looking back at the reaction The Exorcist had when it was released in the 1970s compared to today, where, hell, you probably find it on Saturday morning on HBO if you want it. Graduate students are those who have finished their 4-year bachelor degree and are continuing on with a master's degree or a doctorate. Now, Georgetown has a number of programs, most notably the School of Foreign Service, in which trains diplomats. They also have a School of National Security, which trains military officers and national security professionals in advanced degrees. And of course, they have the traditional academic PhDs that they offer. Also, med school, law school. In the United States, you attend a 4-year, what's called undergraduate degree, and then a 3-year law degree. Med school, again, a 4-year undergraduate degree, 3 or 4 years of medical school, followed by 3 or 4 years of an internship, and then residency as a doctor. So, most undergraduate med students study biology or chemistry or some other science. Some study like public health. Now we're on the really old part of the campus, White Gravener Hall. We're not entirely sure where our kids will go. It's going to depend a lot on what field they want to study. We are aiming for a very prestigious level, high academic university. Not necessarily Harvard, but, you know, a top 10 school to be sure, and possibly the Oxford or Cambridge, should we decide to take them to London. The private school where my son goes is known as a feeder to the top 10 schools. About 20% of the boys that graduate go on to top 10 universities. About 50% of the boys go on to top 25 universities. So we are here for the opportunities that presents to our son, who is, well, actually last year he was the top student in his class. So, you know. So here we are on the campus, and we're cutting over to the main administration building at Georgetown. Now, Georgetown is virtual right now. There are a few students who are here living on campus. but most of the students are watching from home on Zoom. Yeah. Actually, the King of Spain went here to school. He is a graduate of Georgetown University. My kids have their daily academics from 8:30 till about 2:30, followed by mandatory athletic competition for about an hour and a half, and then they usually have about 2 or 3 hours of homework, depending on the day. Sometimes as much as 4 or 5, sometimes as little as 1 hour. They also have private tutors in Chinese and in advanced mathematics. Now this is a dormitory complex back here. We're going to cut through this area. There's no students here right now. But on the right and the left, these are dorms for the college students. They're not here right now. It's actually given the maintenance crew a time to fix them up. Georgetown's physical plant has been suffering over the last 10 years due to financial pressures and neglect. But they've been using this downtime the last 6 months to make a lot of repairs. There's actually an Instagram account that shows you the disgusting stuff they find every week. My wife is Chinese. Yes, my children's first language was actually Chinese. They didn't speak English till they were about 3 or so. Because our nannies, when they were young, only spoke Chinese. It wasn't until we went to Hong Kong that they started speaking English, go figure, because our nannies in Hong Kong were Filipino. My youngest still has a slight Filipino sound to some of his vowels, and he sometimes talks with an uptalk. You know, if you know what an uptalk is, where you end the sentence on an up sounding note, a higher note, at a higher note than you started it. And I think that's kind of a Filipino trait. So my younger one will sometimes do that. You want me to do what? We're going to go where? You know, he will raise his voice a little bit on the last syllable. Uptalk. It's funny, for a while, when my kids talk about soccer, they actually have a pretty British accent, a rather pronounced British accent, because they watch English Premier League and all the shows and stuff. So they say, push on the ball. They'll say it with more of a British accent than an American one. It's just kind of funny. Growing up in Hong Kong, you're exposed to all different accents. I mean, my son's teachers, in order, were New Zealander, American, Canadian, uptight American, British, American, Canadian. So that was his teachers in Hong Kong. So his English has sort of a Commonwealth flair. All right, guys, that's the house from the movie The Exorcist. That is where they filmed the actual movie. The interior scenes or whatever were in that house. So if you go and watch it. Now, the fence wasn't around the house at the time. This black fence is a later addition. But that's the house. And if you haven't seen the movie, I'm not going to give away a spoiler, but let's just put it that this staircase has a major role in the end of the movie. And that's where we're going to walk down. Whoops, there's somebody coming up. I'll let them take a picture. So, for the movie, they actually made a fake wall that was closer over here to make it appear like the house was closer to the steps. So that person's taking a picture. I'm now going to come down. Sorry, lady, your photo's done. Ding 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 ding. Joggers love to exercise on this. Let's do. So I came out here one Halloween, and my buddy and I were at the top, and people were coming up the steps on their way home from the bars, and we would roll marbles and nickels and stuff down the steps. Ding, 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 ding. Of course, they couldn't see anything. These things would just come down the steps like super bouncy balls and other crazy shit. They were screaming left and right. Ah, somebody's on the stairs. Ah. It was a lot of fun. There it is, guys. The Exorcist steps. Oh, they're taking a Halloween picture of their kid. Okay, there's the bridge I've got to cross. Oh, I can cross here. Oh, shit. Hang on. Catch this light. Oh, that worked out well. That building is called the car barn. This is where the trolley cars used to be stored. You see the big doors at the end. That streetcars would actually go right into that building for repairs and maintenance and storage. The car barn is now part of Georgetown University. It was a pretty cool building. Yeah, if you go over close enough, I can't show you. Let me see if I can zoom in. But right there, under the door, are the old trolley tracks. The old trolley tracks are still embedded in the cement. So, you can see them. Yeah, there's a little metal thing sticking out. There's still old trolley tracks up on the side streets up there. The trolleys don't run anymore, but there's a couple blocks where they left the cobblestones and trolley tracks in place. They're absolutely a bitch to drive on because when they get wet and slippery, you just spin out of control. Alrighty then, let's leave the city and go into another state. Down here is the C&O Canal. That's Arlington right over there, Roslyn, Arlington County. So this is the canal. That runs all the way to Pennsylvania. And we're going to cross this bridge. This bridge is always like 5 or 10 degrees colder than the surrounding area. If you ever saw the Cher movie Suspect or Witness, it was Cher and Dennis Quaid, and they found a body at the beginning of the movie, and the body was found right down here in this boathouse. Over there you guys can see the Washington Monument. No, that's not actually the city center. The city center of the White House is down there by the Washington Monument. That's the Watergate Hotel in the foreground. We are using the iPhone 12. This over here is Roslyn, Virginia. And this is technically a suburb. Now, Roslyn is not bound by the same building height laws, so they have bigger buildings there. Can you sail a boat through the canal? No, it's too shallow. These guys are playing soccer. I want to see the ball go out. What? This is about walking from Washington, D.C. to Maryland, or to Virginia. Ooh. There's a couple rowers up there, probably part of the Georgetown crew. You can see. My wife is texting me. No helicopters right now. I gotta call my wife in a second. Hiking. Yes, I am hiking. Woo! I gotta hold my hat. You might lose my hat, guys. Yeah, they're down there. He wants to see our ball going. Well, I don't see his iPhone 12 go swishing. So there's Georgetown. Back on our left, the Watergate Hotel, Washington Monument, all the other monuments and mall is down there. Boy, it's pretty cloudy, isn't it? We got another biker? No. Same dude hitting his bell again. Hello, Italy, ciao. You are looking at the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. Up that road about 5 miles, and just on your left, is the George Bush Center for National Intelligence, aka CIA headquarters. The CIA headquarters is just down that river. Down there on my left, down there is the Pentagon, which you can't really see either. And we are making our way into Arlington, this city, because I've got to go buy an Alexa. Oh, there's a boat. I did vote. Once again, I voted for the best man, same as I voted last year, that being me. I vote for myself. I think I'd be cool as president. I live in Maryland, though. Maryland is about a 70% Democratic state. There's no doubt it's going to be voting blue. The only place that's more Democratic than Maryland is the District of Columbia, which is about a 93% Democratic state. Oh, God, who will win? I have no idea. Honestly, I think any professional predictor sort of gave up the game 4 years ago. It's looking very much like Joe Biden will win, but there's a lot that can happen. It's named after George Bush Sr., who was actually director of the Central Intelligence Agency in the 1970s. You may, if you studied intelligence history, you may have known something called the Church Commission, which found a lot of evidence of CIA abuse, mismanagement, assassinations, kill squads, human rights problems, etc. So after the Church Commission, the CIA needed a new director, and that was George Bush Sr. He was brought in to right the ship, to steady the CIA as it went through this big transition and reform. How far is this hike? I don't even know. I think it's probably about 4 miles. 3 or 4 miles today. The thing is, I gotta go back. Yeah? I'm going over here, that big black building. There's a Target in the basement. There's a lot more safeguards now than there used to be. There's still problems, of course. People are people. But there are a lot of safeguards. There's a lot of procedures that are in place to try to minimize some of that. Doesn't always work, but they do try. What time is it? Good question. It is 2:22 in the afternoon on a Friday, October 30th. We switch back this Sunday. We fall back another hour. So this would actually be 1:22 in a few days as we switch over. I guess Europe, or I know the UK has already switched to winter time. Another person from Italy. How's it going? Ciao. Bonjour. Ça va? And all the other languages I don't speak. My wife is in finance, and this is good exercise. Yeah, you guys switched back last week. It used to be unified. The US and the UK would switch at the same time, but then the US decided to mess it all up, and they changed. And then, okay, I do have a mask. But then, and this I didn't even understand, when the US decided to switch time zones 2 weeks earlier than they used to, this is Arlington Skyline. All the airlines had to go back to the regulators in the UK and negotiate for landing slots at Heathrow, because they had flights that were due to arrive at 3 o'clock, and suddenly these flights were arriving at 4 o'clock or 2 o'clock or whatever. And they had to go through some extended negotiations with the British Airlines so that American planes could continue to take off at the right time and land at the right time. It was a real major pain in the butt. Something I'd never really thought about. It is kind of outdated. For those who don't know, the time zones in America were basically invented by the train companies. The railroad companies needed a way to fix things. Here's an interesting fact. In the United States, at 2 o'clock Sunday morning is when the time zone changes. Yeah? We fall back 1 hour. Well, guess what? In the United States, at 2 o'clock, every train moving in the United States at 2 in the morning freezes in place for 60 minutes. Yeah? Every train, every railroad institutes a nationwide freeze on movement at 2 in the morning. And all the trains stop. And then they wait an hour until they're back on schedule and they start up again. I've been told this. I read this in the Washington Post many years ago. I don't know if it's still that procedure, but it is an interesting oddity that once a year the trains in America come to a stop because they are all an hour off schedule. So a train that was supposed to arrive at one station at 2 in the morning is now going to arrive at 1 in the morning. No, they can't do that. So they just stop an hour and they continue to arrive back at 2. Guys, go ahead and Google that. Don't quote me on this because, like I said, I read this story about 20 years ago. But there is an interesting oddity about U.S. trains. I'm a lawyer, but I don't really practice. Yeah, some sort of scheduling thing. It's pretty funky. Whew.